Hey guys, welcome back to Day-Today Chess. This is Sabina, and for today I've prepared round number 7 between Levon-Aronian and Veselin-Topalov, played in the London Chess Classic in round 7. I really hope you're following the event. It's towards the end. It seems that it's getting more and more interesting, and more games are decisive than at the beginning of the tournament, where we have encountered a lot of draws. But anyways, I hope you're also following my, well, now it's not that new anymore, but my weblog, Day-to-Day Cooking of a Grandmaster.com. This week I mentioned to you in a couple of videos that it's been a little bit tough for me to kind of adjust to my work and continue doing these YouTube videos. But do not worry, I am planning some really good stuff over the weekend to make sure that you are going to have the best up-to-date information about what's going to happen in the following week. So that's definitely set. And let's just review what my video of today was. So yesterday I had made this video where I said I would like to have kind of a little contest, and I will be thinking about some little prizes possibly, but be sure to comment either privately or in the comments below, of course, the solutions for these positions that I had in the video from yesterday. So this one was mate in 3 and white to move and mate in 3 by Edward Lasker. The next position that I had given you, and the last one for yesterday's video, was the following. This position by Sam Lloyd, who has created it in 1869, and it is white to move and mate in 5. I really hope you are going to solve this, and of course enjoy when you solve the position till the end. And additionally, I would like to let you know that there's a little story to this particular position that I'm going to share with you as soon as I will be making a video with the solutions of these. But for the moment, I will let you a little bit longer to enjoy them. Okay, so let's just start with our game between Levon-Aronian and Veselin-Topalov. Aronian starting with c4. And we have gotten this English, but it basically turned around a little bit, right? It seems that we have a reverse Sicilian here, e4, knight b4, and we know that from the normal Sicilian, basically, in this case, black would like to put their knight in d3, of course, win white's bishop, and then be sure that white will not be castling for some time. But of course, the best move, the same as in the Sicilian, is to get the bishop out. And once black plays knight d3, and it's the same when white does it in the Sicilian, we actually move the king. We don't capture in d3. Do not make this mistake, because even if you're white and it might be okay to do it in this position, you still wouldn't want to trade pieces that early. You know, you want to be sure that you still have the queens on the board. Specifically, you know, Aronian is more of a dynamic style, same as Topalov, so you know, probably they both prefer to have queens on the board. But not only that, after king e2, white is slightly better here, because my king will eventually get to safety, and you basically lost a bunch of moves, right? 1, 2, 3, 4 moves with the knight. And there's a big chance you might take in c1. Of course, Topalov did not take in c1, but just imagine black would take in c1, rook takes c1. The knight had such a long way, suddenly captures a bishop that never moved. It's definitely in white's favor. So the fact that the king is currently in the center is not as bad as in general, because after 2 very simple moves, rook e1, the king will get to safety, and until he does that, there's no way for black to actually utilize this to his advantage. So Topalov went knight f4 check, but really this doesn't change the the position too much, because after king f1, again, I will be eventually thinking of chasing your knight away from here. The king can come to g2, and white has no problems. Or if I don't chase your knight from here with the pawn, I can always push the d pawn, and then, you know, d4, for example, your knight will be chased away, and then I'll figure out what to do with my king. So very nice idea by Aronian. Of course, this position is about equal, but the problem for black is that really his knight has traveled really too long of a way, and now because we have d4 as a threat, the knight will have to move once again, and maybe knight d3 was a thing that Topalov could have considered, but after queen c2, the knight has again to be moved to capture the bishop in c1, and we really don't want to do that. So a little bit annoying to play this this position, in my opinion, but it's just an opinion. I'm more of a positional type of player and fundamental. I really like to make sure my pieces are well developed, and I don't make too many moves with the same piece, which is something I'm recommending to everybody who would like to have more of a classical approach to chess. Okay, so knight e6 was Topalov's move, and of course the knight had to go so that d4 doesn't come with tempo, but in the same time the knight has moved, how many times? 6 times, right? And it's also going to close the bishop from getting developed that way. Additionally, you know, you might want to push this pawn, and then, you know, you can't really do it. You have to probably play g6, develop the bishop in g7. So if you would move the knight again, can you imagine? I mean, really. And so here Aronian played b4. This move, I like it so much. I mean, it was not obvious to me as I was checking the game that white would be playing b4 here. A more natural approach to the position is, of course, to try to finish up your development, d3, and then possibly bishop e3. Maybe we could try some attacking on the king side if black is going to play g6. But aside from that, like, really, b4 is a really nice move, and it shows understanding of the position and understanding that here, you know, you really need to find ways to utilize the fact that black moved that knight so many times. And Topalov captured in b4. Had he played maybe, let's say, knight c6, which is a, you know, natural development move, probably b takes e5 would have been Aronian's choice. And here we could think about knight e to d4, just to make sure white won't link their pawns and they won't have 2 pawns in the center, and black at least would have a nice outpost in the center. But even so, again, we're making another move with that knight that already made 6 moves, so it's really not a pleasant idea for black. Bishop b2 would probably follow, and you know, eventually there'll be a trade, knight e2, trying to chase the knight away, and eventually white will be able to play d4. We really want to keep our pawn structure compact. Topalov captured in b4, and Aronian knight d5. You know, getting his knight on a better position. Now closing the action of the queen, so we technically are threatening to play d4, and there's really no way for black to really stop that. Topalov could have played knight to c6, but most likely bishop b2 first, and then we can play d4. d4 directly is possible too, and of course if you're trying to get this bishop that's out, you know, we always have bishop e5 check. Here we could potentially just trade, and now I would say queen e2. Knight e5 is coming, d4 again. Like I said, this king can play, can be put in g2, so a very nice position for white, and black just moved their knights so many times. And still, king in the center, doesn't seem like black will be able to develop very fast. I really prefer this position with white. After knight e5, Topalov decided to finish his development with g6 and d4, of course. This was Aronian's idea by placing their knight in d5, just to be sure they will get the control over the center and there won't be problems you know, let's say black would be able to attack that pawn so many times that would force white to actually push d5 or e5. It's very important for you to notice that the pawns, the central pawns, unless the opponent is going to counterattack the center or try to put a pawn in the center too, we normally want to keep them on the same rank. We don't want to have one further than the other, because as we push one of them, we are leaving the other square as an outpost for the opponent. Maybe not an outpost forever, but definitely an outpost, temporary outpost that could be very annoying if the opponent places a piece there, specifically a knight or bishop. So that is the reason why we normally want to keep the pawns on the same rank. Bishop g7. Aronian finished his development. Knight c6. Okay, well, I'm well defended there. My king is okay. Anytime I can play king g1, I think it's time to attack. This is my interpretation of maybe Aronian's thoughts. Maybe I'm wrong. He didn't play h4 just yet. First, he played rook to c1. Because, you know, he probably thought, I really want to attack, but, you know, there's this pin here. This looks like a Grunfeld, right, where the bishop in g7 is a really important piece. So we really don't want to stay on this pin with white. So rook c1 is a very nice natural move. First, bishop d7, and now queen g2 first. Again, white doesn't hurry, you see? He didn't hurry to play h4. That's what he wanted, but he didn't hurry to play h4 immediately. Aronian waited a little bit longer, maybe black would castle, and then he's sure that that's what he needs to do. But black didn't hurry to castle. He kept the king in the center because, okay, white has the king in the center, so no open files are around here, so black can afford to stay with the king in the center as well. And after queen g2, queen a5 was Topalov's choice. And by the way, I want to mention that, you know, you saw that before. I mentioned to you what a great move it was. And of course, Aronian gave a pawn away, but that pawn doesn't really matter because he got the control over the center, and black's, you know, pawn up is actually a double pawn, and eventually this pawn will fall sometime. I mean, just imagine this knight in d5 is so powerful, eventually could capture that pawn in b4. So it was definitely a great choice to play b4 and, you know, just make this pawn go away from the control of the center, and white got the control of the center. Good. Now after queen a5, there doesn't seem to be threats for black, and, you know, making long castle is definitely not a good idea for black. So it's clear black's king will either stay in the center or black will castle. So it's about time to start pushing the pawns and see what weaknesses we can create. Rook c8, trying to put some pressure, you know. Of course, black would like to start pushing the pawns on the queen side, but a move like a6, just h5, and threatening h6, what are you going to do with the bishop? You know, it's very tough for black. So rook c8. Actually, here after rook c8, if let's say white would play h5, there is actually a threat, possibly b3. And the idea would be, of course, to trade the queens and then trade the rooks on the c file as well, because if we take in a5, knight takes a5, and if we take in b3, of course we have to. I mean, what are we going to do about the pawn in a2? Black can think of playing b5, and, you know, if you go back, then we're trading and we take here, and black is better, right? They have a pawn up and two linked pass pawns. So, of course, after rook takes c1, sorry, a little bit earlier actually, here white doesn't need to play bishop d3, they can play rook a1, but still this position is kind of tough for white. A little bit rook takes a7, maybe bishop b5 check, you know, from a position where black didn't really have any counterplay, suddenly it seems that they're not having that bad of a position. So of course Aronian did not allow that. That was the threat, so there's a, I mean, we have to find a way to stop it. And bishop b3 was Aronian's response. Be sure to check with every single move that you make, that your opponent makes, that you actually know what are the threats. Not only that, but you know who is better in the position so that you know for which result to play. Some people, they forget what's going on, and instead of actually playing for a draw, let's say, they keep playing for a win, and that's going to be devastating for them because eventually they'll end up losing. So it's really important to know the evaluation of the position with after every single move, and also be familiar, be aware of threats. Okay, queen b5 check. Well, I'm not worried. I knew I was going to play king g1. h6, trying to, be ready for h5, to play g5 and close the position so that white doesn't have really ways to open it up anymore. But of course, Aronian didn't play h5. There's no need to hurry in the attack. King h2, bringing the king to safety. And actually, there are some other ways to start the attack. We can think of some, rook d1, maybe moving this knight from here and try pushing d5. That would be a really nice idea for white. So Topalov here played g5 because he suddenly saw the king on the same file as the rook. I'm always mentioning this in my videos, so if you haven't heard me saying that yet, it means you're not seeing enough of my videos. Be sure to go back and check some of my previous videos on attacking. The problem with this g5 is that, after rook d1, white still maintains his advantage. g5 actually doesn't do anything. It would be great if white would capture. I mean, even then, it's not that amazing, because h takes g5. Okay, I go king g1. You trade the rooks. So what? You traded the rooks. The position of black hasn't really improved much, but I don't even need to take, like I said, rook h to d1. So instead of g5, maybe king f8 was another possibility for Topalov, trying to bring their king to h7 and then get their rook into play. That is some possible idea for black, and seems quite alright. But after g5, rook h to d1, king f8, now he brought it, but okay, king g1, just to be sure there won't be any ways to open up the h file. Rook d8 was Topalov's choice, but what to do really? I mean, it seems that black is not that bad, maybe, but he has no really good moves. I mean, white's position is just dominating. I mean, I have the central pawns, all of my pieces, white's pieces are just so well placed. What is black going to do? So maybe knight a5 was a possibility, but then I just take. Then I can possibly play some rook c1 or knight e5, and white is just so dynamic. And even if I lose this bishop, I don't care about it that much, because I take back with the pawn, and it seems that one of my pawns just keeps 3. So definitely a really good position for Aronian. With every single move, he just improved. He's gained a little bit more and more of the advantage, that now it seems that he's almost winning. So rook d8 was Topalov's choice, just kind of not to allow any trade on the c file. But now this was Aronian's idea. Simply capture the pawn. It's a free pawn, right? Bishop takes g5. After all, if you don't open up the position, why won't I, right? Because nothing is going on the h file. And Topalov took the bishop. Probably not the best choice, but what to do? Maybe bishop e8 to try to be defensive, but even so, I mean, you have to be very careful with your queen. If you can see, the queen is kind of trapped in this side of the board a little bit, so maybe some bishop c4 is possible now. Definitely, white is not going to give away this bishop anymore. If you didn't take it, well, you missed a chance. I'm gonna go back, then find a way to move the knight and threaten d5. And I got my pawn back. Before it's still weak. Eventually, probably I'll get it. So definitely big advantage to decisive advantage for white. And here, Topalov captured in g5. And with which piece did we capture back? Well, I think it's clear. with the queen. Why? Because we have kept the queens on the board for a reason, and what better reason than just to start the attack on the black king. So that's why we are bringing another piece in attack, keeping the e7 attacked. This knight can come into play eventually. So after queen takes g5, Topalov played bishop h6, but queen h4, bishop g7. Maybe Topalov was hoping for a repetition, but of course white is just winning here. There won't be any repetition. Queen f4. So as you can see, white just made a little triangle with the queen, and here with the idea of bringing another piece to attack, knight g5. And there's really no way to defend that. Make sure to keep this e6 square control, right? Because bishop e8, just knight e6. Topalov captured in g5, and after queen takes, decided to resign. There's really no way for black to find any kind of counterplay in this position. Rook c5 is a threat here. The knight, moving the knight and trying to put some pressure in f7 is going to help white win the game. Also after rook c5, maybe rook d3, bringing the rook to f3 is another possibility. Rook takes c6 as well, right? So many possibilities for white that you don't even know which one to choose from. But okay, Aronian didn't have to worry about that because Topalov resigned in this position. I really hope you enjoyed this game. Be sure to check back tomorrow, and also don't forget to solve the positions I showed at the beginning of the video, and leave the comments in the description below. Have a great day. Bye.